But shouldn't House Democrats have put aside maybe hurt feelings for the good of their blue constituents? Joining me now, Scottie Nell Hughes, former Trump campaign surrogate and conservative political strategist. Pete Dominick, stand-up comedian and host of the daily podcast Stand Up with Pete Dominick. And Lauren Conlin. She's the host of the Lauren Interviews podcast, where she covers politics, entertainment, and a lot of true crime. Good to see all of you. Pete, mistake by Democrats?
I don't even understand. How could it be? The more extreme of a Republican leader they get, the better it's going to be for Democrats. And furthermore, if Democrats had voted for Kevin McCarthy, the Democratic base, the progressive base, would have been outraged. We would have been really felt betrayed. If it's about governing, somehow you would get a more moderate, which is, I think, what you're suggesting perhaps. That would be fine, but you're not going to get a more moderate person at this point in the Republican caucus. They're only going further and further to extreme.
Right, but they're going further now because the Democrats voted out Kevin McCarthy.
I don't know
with the eight Republicans.
Absolutely, and as they should have. Why would they not do that? Why would they give him a win? If they gave Kevin McCarthy a vote for nothing,
would you agree short term it's a loss, though? Putting aside 2024.
No. How would Democrats? How would you think Democrats would have handled Democrats supporting Kevin McCarthy? How do you think the progressive base would have felt about that?
I would think that they could make the argument I just made, which is lesser of two evils from our perspective.
No, it's good for Democrats when you, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not being clear. The more extreme Republicans become, the better it is for us.
I'm so glad he thinks that. As a Republican, you are absolutely wrong, because that's how we got Donald Trump in 2016, is because the base.
Yeah, that's why we want him back.
So engaged.
He's the easiest person to beat.
We can agree on that. I love starting out a show in agreement. Yeah. We're going to disagree soon, though, I have a feeling. Listen, this is absolutely not a win at all for Democrats. In fact, I have to think, how great of a dupe did Matt Gaetz get in selling this to them? The Democrats lost their #1 ally in Ukraine unaccountable funding they could have out of the entire Republican caucus in that one single move. Kevin McCarthy, he allowed Nancy Pelosi to keep her own office. That's how much Kevin McCarthy was half with the Democrats as he was with the Republicans. So in this case right here, you are going to end up with a Jim Jordan. Scalise, I think, is sort of like a light Kevin McCarthy, but I think it's going to be Jim Jordan, and it's going to engage conservative voters even more, which is actually the excitement that Trump needs to.
Yeah, America is not.
Okay, I agree with you, and I disagree with you. I do think that Scalise might be appealing to the Democrats only because he hasn't straight up said no money for Ukraine. Jim Jordan already said that. That's not a good look for him. So, I'm thinking
it's actually a great look, because here's
for the Republicans, sure, right. But you're going to look at the Democrats and they're like, maybe Matt Gaetz did play us like a fiddle.
But the bigger picture in all this, I think you have politicians on both sides of the aisle absolutely freaking out and meltdown because for once somebody held their own party accountable.
Democrats are not freaking out.
Absolutely, they're freaking out. They are literally.
We're celebrating. This is great.
I'm glad you're celebrating.
No,
it's
they
not
are.
If you watch the majority of the mainstream right now,
because
they're
all
angry
they're
at each
thinking
other.
of is the government shutdown in the next 43 days.
It's terrible for Republicans.
Yeah, but I feel like they didn't really. I feel like they didn't look far enough ahead.
I think there's maybe an argument that long term it benefits Democrats. Short term, it doesn't. That's the question, because it is going to be a Jim Jordan or a Scalise. And look, Donald Trump is going to Capitol Hill on Tuesday to make sure it's Jim Jordan.
Yeah,
right?
And when
Actually, I prefer to be Donald Trump himself. I'm one of those that would love to get the popcorn ready to have. Now, would he make a good speaker? But it would be just so much fun to actually put every Republican who campaigns to be Donald Trump's light in their districts say whether or not they would support him as Speaker of the House.
One of the things that's so entertaining to watch and so hypocritical, of course, is these, quote, moderate Republicans in the House or any Republican in the House savaging Matt Gaetz and the extremists who voted against Kevin McCarthy, right? Because they're savaging him. They're saying these guys are extreme and they shouldn't have done this, but they all support Donald Trump. So how can you both support Donald Trump, who has been indicted 4 times and obviously impeached twice, but then be critical of Matt Gaetz? You can't do both, right?
You can a little bit. Someone like Mike Lawler. Let me explain.
I know, he's my congressman. I got plenty to say about him.
Right. Okay. So this is how he does it.
He's calling them clowns.
Right. That's right.
And yet he supports Donald Trump.
Right. That's right. But he supports Donald Trump, kinda. Meaning he supports Donald Trump if you say, if you're going to make me choose, For president, I'll support the Republican.
Dan, I got to tell you, he's my congressman. He supports Donald Trump, and so do the people in my district that are Republican. Overwhelmingly, they support Donald Trump.
I mean,
I live there.
If the choice is Donald Trump versus Joe Biden.
Yes, but you can't have both ways. Listen, you can't call Matt Gaetz an extremist and then say the guy who gave him the order to do that, Donald Trump, is okay. You just can't.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.